if she's just like, he needs to love me how I am. If he doesn't like me at my worst, he doesn't deserve me at my best. No, well, then all of the Jewish people would have died in Babylon. Hey, it's Rachel. I'm so glad you're here today because we are going to be talking about one of the most requested pieces of advice that I get, and that is, no, it's not sex with demons or witches or the occult, which for whatever reason my Google Analytics shows like that's what everybody's searching for when they find me. Oh, everyone needs Jesus. No, today we are talking about dating and relationships as a Christian. Now, there are about 1 billion videos about dating and relationships and Christian purity and and I'm like, why am I getting questions about this? There's so much content, but when I went and I looked at what the advice was out there, I'm just like, what is this? Like, I have secondhand embarrassment, like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing and not even practical. So today we are going to be talking about that. Now, before we even get started, again, as I always say, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell with the little parentheses because Satan does not want you to know the gospel, so they're going to make you jump through 10,000 hoops to get notified of a new gospel message. Now, the reason that we need to talk about this is because there is a huge problem in the Christian church, and that is people aren't getting married. People aren't having babies or anything. Like, it's mostly women in the church. They're looking for guys. Guys aren't coming to church. And then, you know what? When there's no men, people aren't getting married. They're not having families. And then everybody in the church starts dying off. So we need to address this because the way the church has Christian dating set up here in the West, this is specifically for the West, okay? It's really messed up. It's really just, it's socially awkward, and you're basically killing off your own church, your own parishioners with this terrible advice. So I just want to jump right in to this. Now, I obviously have already spoken some about dating and sex and relationships, and make sure you check out that 2-part series. If you're following the churchianity advice, you are going to be in for a rough ride when you're like 55 and you've like never been kissed. So let's just talk about that right now. Now, the first piece of advice that I find is just absolute trash is, you just need to be closer in your walk with God. You need to be so close to God that when that spouse is looking for God, they'll find you. Okay, number 1, barf. So hokey. But number 2, I gotta cross this bridge and then I'm gonna get to God. And you just pop out like a troll, like, here I am. Like, okay, first of all, no. You're not like right next to God where it's like, wow, this is the only way I could have found her. Like, girl, all of us are living in a fallen world. We're all sinful. Like, take it down 10 notches. But I want people to know that you don't have to wait until you are like a certain level of Christian to start looking for somebody, because you know what? God made us where we can do more than one thing at a time. So we can be growing in our faith, and we can also be looking for a spouse and dating. And I want people to understand it's not about like, oh, I just need to get closer to God. Oh, I need to get closer to God. Because, hey, remember, Adam was really close to God. There was no distractions. It was just God, Adam, and the animals. And what does God say? It's not good for man to be alone. Like, okay, like, we're cool and everything. I'm God. You're Adam. But, yeah, you have some other needs that I'm not going to attend to. So we are going to create woman for you. And that's a good thing. Like, this is what God ordained. God said it's good for man to have a partner. And it's not about like, oh, everything else is a distraction from God. Now, get over yourself. Like, no. Anybody, you can be a new believer, you can be a seasoned believer, it does not matter. You can go out there and find a spouse. You don't have to hit like a certain level of Christian before you are ready. If you're an adult and you have your finances in order and you are like a whole person, you don't have like a bunch of unattended emotional baggage that needs to be taken care of first, you're ready. You are ready right now. So, number 2, the second piece of garbage Christian dating advice that is holding you back is this. Don't settle. You gotta look for what's God-ordained. Okay, most people are 3 sheets to the wind and they don't know what's God ordained. Personally, they just don't. It's more like, what do my friends like? What do I feel like? What would make my parents happy? And no, that is not the same as what is God ordained. And I'll tell you why, because Samson, he told his parents, go get me this Philistine woman as a wife. And they're like, can't you just find somebody that's like one of us? The same religion? And they didn't understand that it was God who wanted Samson to be with this not Jewish woman. She was a Philistine. And the Bible tells us this in the book of Judges. God wanted a reason to confront the Philistines. That's why he wanted Samson to get with a Philistine woman. So even though they're not the same religion, they don't have the same faith, this was God ordained. And you will have pushback from family. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Because not everybody's listening to God. So sometimes their advice is null and void. It does not matter. But also, a lot of Christians will use this excuse, oh, I'm not settling, because they are afraid. They are operating in fear. They don't want to commit. They have a fear of commitment. It's like a failure to launch type thing. Like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to be an adult, or I'm not ready to be a spouse, or, oh, it's scary just laying all your emotions out there and just being completely open with a person. So they will use the excuse of, oh, I'm not settling, to stay where they are because change is scary. And you're an adult. God wants you to grow, and part of growing is maturing to where you are at the age and you are at the mindset where you are a spouse, where that is a possibility if that's what you want. If you want to get married, God wants you to move towards that. He does not want you to be like living in your parents' basement, like, ugh, girls. So yeah, don't use that excuse, but also make sure you're not using this excuse as like, I'm not settling because there's always something else out there that's better. It's like, I just don't want to settle because what if there's something better? What if there's something better? It's called hypergamy, where it's like, I'm going to wait until somebody richer and sexier comes along. And it's like, no, at some point, it's time to make a decision. We can't try on every wedding dress in the universe. Like, these are your options. Pick one. Because God doesn't do soulmates. There's 7 billion people in the universe. Half are the opposite sex of you. So go out. There are many people that you can marry, and it's going to be okay. But you need to, like, hurry it up. Don't keep using excuses because you're looking for somebody who doesn't exist. Remember, you are not here to marry Jesus. You're not going to find a very rich, sexy Jesus to marry, okay? That's not even a thing. So stop looking for somebody who's absolutely perfect and sinless and basically Jesus. It's not gonna happen. Now, the third piece of trash advice is you need to find somebody who will accept you as you are. Now, remember, you're searching for Jesus over here to marry, and everybody else, they need to accept you and your faults as is. Like, wonderful double standard, right? What people don't understand is that sometimes you do need to change. Like, there is a reason that you are single at times. Sometimes you have a weird personality. Maybe you're just weirding people out. Maybe you need to work on your social skills. Maybe you need to go to the gym. Maybe you need to shower more. Maybe you need to dress better. And this isn't about like, oh, I'm not being accepted for who I am. It's like, no, like you need to be what people are looking for, because God made pheromones. God made people have attractions to certain things. So if you are going to be like a monster slob, that's not going to attract anybody. If you're socially weird, that's not going to attract anybody. And yes, you need to change. Just like we change from being in the world to being a child of God. There's a transformation that takes place. So just like in anything, you will have to change. If a house isn't selling, you put a house on the market and it just sits there and sits there and sits there, but all the other houses in the neighborhood are selling. Maybe it's not a problem with the market, it's a problem with the house. Maybe it needs decluttered. Maybe it needs repaired. Maybe the price needs to come down, and then it will sell. Likewise with you. Maybe you need to take it down 10 notches. maybe you need to patch up your damage, get those problems worked out. And maybe you need to like fix up the outside, because physical attraction, sexual attraction is important. There is a precedent in the Bible where it's like, you know what? Sometimes you're going to have to change to attract this spouse that God has in mind for you. We see this in the story of Esther. All the virgins are brought in so that they can get beautified for Xerxes. I actually slept in this makeup because I didn't want to reapply it, because I watched a Arabian makeup tutorial and I was like, oh, I need to film in this tomorrow. So yeah, I know this is really crazy, but Esther also did beauty treatments and looked different than how she usually did so that she could attract the king. And if she didn't, if she's just like, he needs to love me how I am. If he doesn't like me at my worst, he doesn't deserve me at my best. Well, then all of the Jewish people would have died in Babylon. But we see she had to change. She had to make herself more physically attracted. And because she did these things, because she was a smart human being, had made herself sexually attractive, physically attractive for the king, she was chosen to be the new queen. And because she was the new queen, she was able to save the Jewish people from genocide at the hands of Haman. That is the holiday of Purim. So yeah, if you think you don't need to change and everybody needs to just accept you as you are, you got another thing coming, because you are going to be in a casket before God brings you your perfect spouse. The fourth piece of trash Christian dating advice is this: just pray to God for your spouse. You'll find him when you're not looking. Oh, you mean like all those jobs that you get by not applying for them? Or, God, please, I'm so hungry, send me food. And God's like, okay, I've given you the ability to work, so you're going to need to leave your house and go buy food. Oh no, God, just send it to me, like, please, I'll do anything. Okay, like, go to the grocery store and go buy some food. There's like zero precedent for this, where it's like, if I pray hard enough and do nothing but sit on my bed, God, please, I'm ready, I'm willing, like, that God will just magically send some rando to your front door and be like, I'm the one you've been looking for. That's not even realistic. Come on, people. I want people to understand, when you pray, there's also some action that you have to put in. Like, faith through action shows that you actually believe God is going to do the things that he says that he's going to do. And we see this throughout the Bible. We see that when Ruth, she needs to get married, period. The end. She's like, I'm going to starve to death. I'm going to die if I don't get married. So what does she do? She goes into Boaz and she does this like Jewish ceremony thing where she's uncovering his feet. And that is something that we sort of talked about in Genesis with Judah and Tamar. I'll put that video up here. And what she's saying is like, marry me or else. Like, I'm coming to you privately, but you, as my kinsman redeemer, the next of kin, you have an obligation to marry me. And I'm coming to you privately, but if you say no, like, we're gonna have to take this publicly. He got the message. Basically, she was proposing to him, like, you need to marry me now. But we also see this with the story of Jacob. He's the grandson of Abraham. Jacob, he's ready to get married, so what does he do? He goes to his uncle Laban and he's like, hey, I want Rachel over there. He works 7 years for her, and then Laban is just a shady piece of trash, and then he ends up having to work an additional 7 years. It's total drama, but we see that he perseveres. It's not just like, oh, they said no. Oh. Like, no, they weren't just sitting at home waiting on God to deliver a woman for him on the back of a camel. No, they actually went out and practiced their faith. They put their faith into action. So if you are looking to get married, put yourself out there. And it's not just like, oh, I put myself out there, but I got rejected. Okay, do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, because all human beings, male or female, deal with rejection. I know men are like, oh, women never get rejected. Yeah, okay. But you need to let everybody know, hey, I'm on the market. Hey, do you know anybody? Can you introduce me to people? Go out and do hobbies that aren't church related. You have interests that are outside of the church. Go join Meetup. Go meet people. Go get involved with a gym. Go just go outside. Just go outside. You will find somebody when you are outside of your house. If you are sitting around waiting on God to just magically deliver you a UPS package with a perfect spouse, you are going to be waiting until you're like a skeleton in Red Dead Redemption, like covered in cobwebs. Like, it's not going to happen. Go put your faith out into action and put yourself out there. Put yourself on the market. It's scary. Yeah, you're going to deal with rejection. Yeah, you're going to deal with crazy parents and all this other garbage that comes along with dating. But such is life. The people in the Bible did it. You need to do it. Now, the fifth piece of advice, the final piece of advice for today, that is absolute trash. Date with intention. Everybody needs to literally slow their roll, because some of this advice is like, oh, you need to hide your spirit within God and all this. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, this is just weird. Like, all this Christianese, it just sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook. And here's the deal. Yes, it's important to date with intention. Like, you're not looking for a hookup. Like, hey, girl, hey, you looking for a man tonight? Like, no, obviously. I don't even need to tell you this. Like, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you are more serious about dating. You're not like, oh, I'm just looking for a one-night stand. But at the same time, like, it's cool to date with intention. Like, I'm looking for my spouse. But first, slow your roll, because you need to get to know this person first, just like you would with a friend, just like you would with a coworker. You talk to them, you get to know them, and then later on, feelings develop, and then you start dating. It's not like, greetings, I'm looking for a sperm donor to father my children when we get married in the next 6 weeks. Are you okay with that? How is your relationship with God? People are going to be like, are you challenged? Is there something wrong with you? Because you're weirding me out over here. So Christians, slow your roll. I've said this about other things. Do not try to rush things, because you come off a little too weird when it's just like, I'm looking for my perfect helpmeet. I'm looking for my perfect spouse. Just get to know the person. Don't be weird about it. Just like, hey, I'm Rachel. I am interested in 90 Day Fiancé, eating cheesecake, and wearing makeup. Like, those are what I like to do. I really enjoy blah, 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 blah. Like, get to know a person. You don't need to even mention marriage and family and your walk with Jesus on the first couple dates. Like, just save it. Get to know that person, because once you start talking to them and getting to know their likes and their dislikes, you might just be like, we don't have any chemistry. You don't even need to get to the other stuff. You don't need to just like lay it out all on the line for somebody that you might actually not even be compatible with. So get to know the person first before you just like word vomit all of this, like, I'm ready to get married right now, because you're going to freak people out. The 5 rules that you do need to be following is, number 1, if you're an adult, it's time. Number 2, you're not going to be marrying Jesus. So stop trying to look for a man who is the equivalent of Jesus, or a woman. The 3rd rule that you need to follow is, you need to change. There is something about you that you need to work on. Everybody can learn and grow and change. Make yourself a person that somebody would want to date. Number 4, be a person of action. Do not hold back forever. You need to put your faith into action. Yes, God, show me the right person. Give me an opportunity to meet somebody, but then leave your house and go put yourself out there. And then the 5th piece of advice that you need to follow is slow your roll, because you don't need to rush it. Get to know people, weed people out, because you don't need to lay everything out on the line before you've even gotten to know this person's middle name. Follow those pieces of advice, and I feel like you are going to have a much better time finding a spouse. Make sure you stay tuned for next week, because we are going to be talking about 5 more pieces of garbage Christian dating advice that you need to ignore. So make sure to check those out. And while you're at it, while you're waiting, check out this playlist over here, or maybe one over here. We are over 130 videos into Crack Your Bible, and we want you to have the full armor of God so that you understand your rights and responsibilities as a Christian, so that you can stand up against the schemes of the devil. So check those out while you're waiting, and I would love if you would like, subscribe, and share, and I will talk to you later. Bye.